Hey guys, Isabel here. Welcome back to Reeled In. So today, as I'm recording, is Sunday, and it's the end of the weekend, and so hopefully that's been sort of enough time for enough people to see the Black Widow movie. It came out on Friday with a couple pre-showings on Thursdays in select theaters. It's also out on Disney Plus with premiere access, and in my opinion, is probably one of the top 5 Marvel movies. Hopefully I've waited a good amount of time without giving away too many spoilers. That being said though, this will contain spoilers for Black Widow. So if you haven't seen it, go watch the movie and then come back and watch this one. But this is a review of basically what I thought about the movie and some things I saw in the movie that I thought were really interesting. But it has been basically over 2 years since we had a Marvel movie, and I have to say, I missed the action and the storytelling. This movie was filled with insane action sequences, amazing shots that I think will be memorable for years to come, and an overall closing storyline for one of the most iconic characters and an original Avenger. But let's dive on into the review. So when I first saw this movie in theaters, I did start off the movie kind of confused because I had assumed we were kind of starting off Natasha's younger self in Russia, where she's supposed to be from, and so we were going through the neighborhood and I was really confused because I was like, this doesn't look like a Russian neighborhood, but it's revealed to be Ohio in 1995. One thing I was certain of going into this was that no one in the little family was blood related, but this opening scene really had me questioning myself, and I believe that all the way up until we touched down in Cuba, that was a whole lie, and I was kind of angry with Alexei for basically handing Natasha and Yelena back to the Red Room, because in my head I was like, wait, they're actually, like, those are actually his daughters. What's wrong with him? But they're not. So, because that's not the case at all. They were Russian spies posing as an American family. And this movie is full of closing circles, and I love circles. In the opening scene, we get a greeting that the sisters share. A secret whistle, if you will. The movie starts with a whistled hello and ends with a whistled goodbye. As well as this little phrase here.
Flipped upside down.
That is called back after Natasha saves Yelena.
We're both upside down.
This opening scene here also depicts the kind of relationship that they have together. And it sort of seems to be a little bit of a competitive one.
And I bet you're gonna fall down first. No, you will.
And we do see hints of this throughout the film, where we see Yelena and Natasha sort of comparing their experiences to each other. And I get the vibe that Yelena is sort of trying to be a bit better than Natasha. And the film opens with lightning bugs as the camera pans up, and then closes with lightning bugs as the camera pans down. A literal opening and closing of the movie. We also get a hint at Melina's character as she scientifically explains what lightning bugs are and how they glow to Yelena. Our first hint of her scientific background.
The glow that you see, that comes from a chemical reaction called bioluminescence.
And the role that she will play in the film. And I thought it was interesting that even as a child, Natasha seems to know sort of a lot more of what's really going on than Yelena does. And I do believe this does have a lot to do with age, as Yelena is only 6 and Natasha's probably like 10 or 12. But when we land in Cuba, we find out that Natasha has already done a stint in the Red Room. Like, this little girl has already been through so much. And another interesting reveal to her background that I didn't think the audience was expecting. But they're escaping Ohio, and Alexei shows some super soldier strength by moving this large metal obstacle out of the way. And like, why aren't more people talking about this? And how Russia got their hands on the super soldier serum when only Germany and America were the ones that really explored with it. Unless I'm just forgetting something. There's like 25 some plus minus movies out now, so. Although this serum seems to be more like the ones we see in Falcon and Winter Soldier, as Alexei doesn't seem to have bulked up from it. This serum is more subtle without the physical appearances that Steve, Bucky, and as we learn in Falcon, Isaiah have. So perhaps this version of the serum has been around a lot longer than we thought, or perhaps Alexei's serum wasn't a perfect one, as he does seem to have some trouble escaping the prison here. Also, I like the idea that this photo strip holds a lot more meaning to both Natasha and Yelena than their whole 3 years in Ohio. And as they are taking off in the plane, they are being chased by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, not the police or FBI as I originally thought when I first watched the movie. And this is our first hint that Alexei didn't just commit a random crime or get found out. He did something big and bad, like blow up a government / S.H.I.E.L.D. / actually Hydra facility.
And the North Institute. Ashes.
As we find out once we get to Cuba. And once we're in Cuba, we find out that Alexei was the Red Guardian, basically a Russian Captain America, who he sort of becomes and even mirrors later on towards the end of the movie, when he takes Taskmaster's shield and wields it as his own. We have a direct link here when he's talking about a fictional defeat of his American counterpart using Cap's own shield.
This shield, that he carries with him like a precious baby blanket, I use it to my advantage. I take it, I push him out the window.
To push him out of a window. And we actually see Alexei doing this to escape a Red Room guard. We find out that Alexei burned down the North Institute and stole some secret information. I'm assuming the North Institute was perhaps a bio-research lab, as I'm assuming the contents of the disc Alexei stole are what allowed the chemical mind control of the widows to happen. And I don't know why I'm saying assuming, because they literally explain that later in the movie. So we get another little detail snuck in there that Hydra, posing as S.H.I.E.L.D., was still up to some pretty interesting things. Things that still have a lasting effect way into the future. I think this movie takes place in probably 2016, as it's after the events of Civil War, but before Infinity War. And we see how Natasha's training in the Red Room has already affected her abilities, as she easily disarms the guard with some combat moves and steals his gun. And then we get this weird opening credits scene that had me very confused at first. I'm assuming Natasha and Yelena actually tried to run away from the Red Room, but they were found hiding in what looked like a sort of shipping yard with shipping containers. But also an interesting metaphor for how Natasha has never been able to escape Dreykov, as well as the horror of becoming a widow in the Red Room, directly contrasted with the life she longed for. One being real and the other fake, sort of having us as the audience be filtered through a dream and a nightmare, as the credits seem to glitch back and forth between Natasha's training and her family when they were undercover in Ohio. Also, a close-up on the ring that foreshadows its importance later in the movie as it's used to unlock the data on where all the widows are located. And we officially find out that this movie takes place after Civil War, as Secretary Ross is chasing down Natasha for breaking the Sokovia Accords, and he already has Sam, Clint, and Scott in jail.
Natasha Romanoff is in violation of the Sokovia Accords. She assaulted the king of Wakanda. We got Barton, we got Wilson, and the other guy, the incredible shrinking convict.
And now we get adult Yelena chasing down an older widow who's able to spray Yelena with an antidote, letting the audience know that Yelena was in some way being controlled. A new development from what we knew of Natasha's backstory. Also, my girl Yelena just stabs herself and takes out the tracker like it's nothing. And we get our first look at Taskmaster, watching a fight scene between Clint and T'Challa during Civil War. Taskmaster is a character from the comics who's basically has a photographic memory that allows Taskmaster to imitate any fight style shown to him. Taskmaster in the comics is a man, but they cleverly switch that up as it's later revealed Taskmaster is Dreykov's daughter, who Natasha had blown up and was thought to be dead. We find out it was Natasha's basically out mission. But his daughter somehow survived, basically because Dreykov put a chip in the back of her neck, rendering her more robotic than human and also allowing Dreykov to have full control over her. But Taskmaster tracks down Natasha, or better yet, she tracks down the antidote. One thing I did want to see a bit more of in the movie is Taskmaster imitating more fighting styles or having that specific ability be more of a roadblock to either Yelena and or Natasha. But here are some instances I did see Taskmaster imitating other Avengers. We see that Taskmaster imitates Captain America a lot, mostly due to the fact that Taskmaster has their own shield. Natasha herself, or maybe even the other widows, maybe a little bit of Spider-Man here, definitely Hawkeye, Black Panther, and Winter Soldier with the signature knife flip she does. Also, during the first couple scenes of the Taskmaster, we hear the heavy boots, and actually there are a couple of times when we can hear Taskmaster breathing through the mask. Which gave me really big Darth Vader vibes. Perhaps hinting at the fact that the person under the mask is a tortured, disfigured soul who's really being controlled by a higher power. Once in Budapest, we get an awesome fight sequence between Yelena and Natasha, showing that for the most part, both of them are evenly matched, but I think Natasha seems to be more seasoned as Yelena runs into a table and slips up a bit.
Watch your step.
It also shows the hurt Yelena feels towards Natasha for, in her mind, abandoning her, and also Natasha being shook up at seeing Yelena, again, as she was a sister figure to her. It's actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And we get a little hint of the infamous Budapest past between Clint and Natasha with the arrows comment.
What bullet does that? Not bullets, arrows.
Also, I noticed an interesting scene here when they're talking about why Yelena sent the antidote to Natasha. She's in the midst of calling her a superhero, but stops when she sees the bruises on Natasha's back and switches to the word person.
You're the only superhero person that I know.
Perhaps we get a glimpse into how Yelena views Natasha and maybe has always viewed her as the older sister, the protector, but has to remind herself that Natasha has hurt her in the past. Also nice to know, BMW helps financially support the MCU. Also, we see some jealousy from Yelena as she makes fun of Natasha's family, the Avengers. She also does this to hide the hurt she feels when Natasha states they weren't a real family, and also shows just how much Natasha choosing a family and discarding Yelena really affects her. We also see just how much those 3 years in Ohio meant to Yelena, as when she reinvents her family, she picks that location for where her family still live. She also states she wants a dog, which she does get in the end credits, and names her Fanny, a funny nod to one of Natasha's other identities. She gets Fanny Longbottom. And I think that's another way for Yelena to keep her now dead sister still close to her. And we see the vest Natasha wears in Infinity War, and it originates from Yelena. And as she wears it at the end of the movie, after the Red Room's defeat, it shows that Natasha finally has total control over her life. And I like how that symbolism comes from after she took down the organization that has caused so much horror and trauma in her life. And as I was watching the movie, one thing I didn't really get is we've seen Alexei using very good English in the opening scene, but after he's rescued from the prison, his English seems to sort of diminish and become a little bit broken. Maybe it's just the way David Harbour chose to portray the accent, but I found it a bit weird, and after watching it for a third time, I also noticed Melina does that too. Like, they'll omit words such as a or the and just say the object. But I like that we see Natasha quickly fall back into her role as big sister when she cleans Yelena's wound for her, and also in these camera shots here. Alexei is of course only talking about himself. Natasha looks up and the camera angle changes to Yelena walking away, and then back to Natasha, who immediately turns to Alexei and calls him out for not caring about either of them, but most importantly for not caring about Yelena, who is obviously bothered by this fact. And we see it again at the dining table.
Don't stop with the
Look
bullshit.
at what
You are an idiot. And you're a coward.
And I was also happy that in this movie, we got more info on Natasha's mysterious backstory. That Natasha was genetically picked for the Red Room and not abandoned by her family, which we had all thought. Which kind of reminds me of how some Sokovians are supposed to have different genetics in the comics, which sort of explains how Wanda and Pietro were able to survive Hydra's testing with an Infinity Stone. So I wonder maybe in the future there'll be more genetic stuff to explore. And then we get one of the best fake outs that I've seen in a long time. Melina is perceived to be an antagonist, but it's quickly revealed that her and Natasha switch places with that face mask we've seen Natasha use, as well as Sharon Carter in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And after all these years, we finally get the reveal of the Red Room, which is a floating skyscraper hidden from the ground view by some clouds. And I still don't get how it was undetectable. Like, satellites are a thing. You're telling me no satellite or other system has ever picked up on this floating building? But it looks cool, and that's all that really matters, according to action movies. Notice, though, how Dreykov seems to sniff Melina here.
It's a pain in my ass.
Perhaps this is the moment he realizes it was Natasha he was speaking to and not Melina, especially since he makes a big deal about his own pheromones. And my girl Natasha smashes her nose against the desk and then puts it back into place. But now she's able to attack Dreykov, and he immediately loses his glasses, symbolizing his momentary loss of control. Once his other widows subdue Natasha, he puts his glasses back on, and he's now back in control, making a very satisfying image of his glasses flying off in the explosion as Yelena destroys his escape craft. But Yelena detonates the antidote bomb and frees the widows, a first hint that sets up her future in the MCU, as she was the one who freed the other widows and not Natasha, as one would think. Second hint is when she kills Dreykov, who I think everyone thought Natasha was going to kill. But if you think about it, it probably makes more sense for Yelena to kill Dreykov, who I think caused more damage to Yelena than Natasha. Like, when they were younger, Natasha had already experienced the Red Room, but Yelena hadn't. So technically, Dreykov actually did take Yelena's family from her, and also eventually controlled her and took away her will. Something that never happened to Natasha. And therefore ensuring that, unlike her sister, Yelena could never escape his grasp. But the Red Room gets taken down with an epic free fall scene, and Natasha takes down Taskmaster. She opens her helmet and is able to detonate the antidote, freeing both Antonia and also herself, as this was the last bit of guilt that Natasha was dealing with, and she was finally able to make up and apologize for her past by giving Antonia her free will back. But I liked how this movie is about forgiving your family and also learning to seek forgiveness from others. And how, in order for Natasha to get her chosen family back, the Avengers, she had to help her real family put the pieces back together. I also think this movie is about perhaps letting those who are supposed to be gone stay gone, which I know is a really odd thing to think about, but look at Antonia. Her father kept her alive for his own nefarious purposes. Over time, viewing her not as his daughter, but as his secret weapon, something he could utilize and control. And look at how relieved she seemed to be when she found out that Dreykov was finally gone.
Is he gone?
He's gone.
Her life was nothing. She had no control over it since she was maybe 5 years old. And honestly, what kind of life is that? And we see Yelena pretty much officially being handed the next Black Widow altar as she goes to probably help free all the other mind-controlled widows. I wonder though if she'll be a white widow, as her suit is white. And I don't think she has another one, because I think she got rid of the black one. And I thought the ending was bittersweet because I'm glad the Red Room got defeated, but I realize that they just became a family again, but they're never going to see each other. The ending scene is Natasha with short blonde hair, the same hair we see her have in Infinity War. She walks away towards the Quinjet, and to me, it seems like she was walking to her death. But she exits to the Avengers theme. Letting us know that she is and always was and always will be an Avenger. And it just hurts to think about. But we have a crazy end credit scene with Yelena visiting Natasha's grave, which is pretty good because I know a lot of people were upset we didn't get really a funeral scene for Natasha like we got a big one for Tony. So I think this little graveyard scene kind of offered the closure that that missing scene at the end of Endgame did not provide. And we get a surprise visit from Valentina, who we were introduced to in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as she recruits John Walker for whatever league she's putting together, which I think is the Thunderbolts, an anti-hero group with ambiguous morals and lots of killing of people. I'm not really that big of a fan of the anti-hero thing going on, but if Yelena does become a part of that group, I'm definitely here to see more of her sass and badassery. Valentina mentions they're in the Midwest of, I'm assuming, America, so maybe Natasha is buried in Ohio, where this all started for her. And Yelena is given a mission to kill Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. So perhaps Yelena will be in the Hawkeye TV show or another show/movie of her own. And just as Hawkeye was able to pull Natasha to the side of the Avengers, I wonder if he'll be able to do the same for Yelena. Overall, I thought this movie was amazing, and even though I think we should have gotten a Black Widow movie a long time ago, I like the timing and how it gave us closure for her character. She was able to defeat and overcome the part of her life that has tortured her mentally and physically. And instead of finding one family, we now realize that she had found two. Her past has been revealed to us, and it left a space that I think Yelena is going to fill. As Tony's protege is Spidey, Steve's is Sam, I think Natasha's just might be Yelena. Well, guys, that was my review/analysis/discussion of the movie Black Widow. The overall score, I'm gonna give it a 90. It's one of the better films I've seen, which is saying a lot, but also not saying a lot because quarantine, nothing's been produced. So, but still. It was a very good movie. I personally thought it was a very good movie. All the characters and actors had great chemistry together, which makes me extra sad that I know unless they do another weird thing where they get together again, this is probably the last time they're all going to see each other because, you know, Natasha dies. But Marvel's Black Widow has been reeled in. What did you guys think? Did you agree, disagree with what I said? Did you see something else that I did not mention? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to give a like to this video and subscribe for future Marvel movie reviews as well as TV show reactions and analysis. So be sure to check out the channel. But that's all I have for you guys today, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.